You're listening to The Odd Couple with Lori Ross and Vikram Deol. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode where we find out where in the world Vikram is. How are you doing, Vikram?
Hey, what's up, Lori? I'm doing good. I have a little bit of a hoarse throat because I just got done with doing a leadership event, and where am I at? I'm in Marco Island, Florida right now.
Yeah. Where in the world?
Yeah, I'm like Waldo.
You are like Waldo.
I'm gonna start wearing I'm gonna wear like an Indian striped red and white shirt, and you guys just have to find me wherever I'm at in the world.
Exactly. Well, if you don't know, Vikram goes to a lot of Tony Robbins events, and I follow him on Instagram. So if you don't follow him on Instagram, it's pretty entertaining, and we get to kind of see his journey. But he goes to a lot of high energy events, and man, I don't know how you do that. It just keeps you going and pumped. Is that how you keep your excitement for all this?
One of the things that I've learned is if you ever realize, if you ask a man a question about what happened 10 years ago, he'll have no idea. But even if you guys get into an argument, he's like, oh, we got into an argument about something? Like, oh, I totally don't remember. With women, you guys attach emotions to your feelings or to your thoughts, and that's why it's easier for you to recall it. So if you were to say, where were you at 8/11, nobody would know. But if I asked you where you're at 9/11, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people would say, I know exactly what I was doing, where I was at, what happened, who called me. Like, you really know what happened because it was such an emotional event. And so when you're learning and you're being taught something new, or you're trying to push the needle, push your envelope, having a high level of energy is really what helps you get through those moments of uncertainty, or those moments of fear, those moments of difficulty, because that energy pushes you through, because you just say, I'm going to do it. Or when you're learning something, the energy is what helps make that thought or that new idea really, really sunk into your body.
Well, I think you're talking about positive association with something. And when I used to do work in youth development, we would always end on a high note, because if you ended and you went too long, it would just not be as exciting. So I noticed at the events you go to, I haven't been to one of them, but it looks like they're always kind of ending on a high note and leave you guys filled and jazzed with all this energy to take with you to the next level.
There's a couple of things that are in there for sure, but yes, and like what you said, you always end on a high note. One of the statements in these events is, we never leave the room in a non-peak state. If you look at physiology of a person, it's funny because this morning I woke up and I turned on the TV, and I have to do these leg exercises for my knee to open up my hip flexors because my ACL injury a few years ago. And so I was laying down, I had the TV on, I was trying to find a news channel, but I ended up watching some cartoon. And the cartoon talked about when you don't get your way, you have to do a dance to change your body. But it's really the same thing that we learned this week is when you don't get your way, if you can change your state, if you can change your physiology, then you can change your association with what just happened. So even if something doesn't go your way and you're upset or something bad happens, if you're able to change your state, you can change the way you feel about it. And energy is what really drives everything. If you think about anything in life, we need energy to do anything and everything. To start your car, you use gas, and that creates the energy to power your car forward. And so as humans, we've been conditioned to live in these boxes that our parents or our grandparents or society or culture, they've dictated these boxes that we live in. And so we just say, hey, that's the way it's always been done. And we tend to lose that excitement when you go to work. I mean, a lot of people go to work, they don't go to a career, they don't go to something that fulfills them. So they go to work and they're not very excited, or they go to a job and they're even less excited. And one of the things that I learned from I've watched this guy speak a few times. His name is Keith Cunningham. He's a brilliant, brilliant businessman. He says, show me shitty culture and I'll show you a shitty leader. And he says the first thing he does when he takes over a company is he looks at the people and he looks at the culture. And he says, if the people are C players, then you're not going to make them, and they're not coachable to become an A player, then you got to get rid of them. But if you show me an A player in a shitty culture, they're going to look like a C player, but that's just because they're not in the right energetic space. So if you can change the energy of the place, you can turn around the company without doing a lot of stuff other than just making it a good place to work. And one of the easiest ways to do that is just raise the energy.
Right. And so I wanted to kind of delve deep a little bit because as entrepreneurs, I think it's easy to get stuck. And I think I just gave you the metaphor of a spinning plate. We have to keep the plate spinning before we started recording. And to me, that's keeping the enthusiasm. And I know that any job that I've worked in, if I'm not excited about it, I am going to lose all my motivation and bail. And I try to have a pattern disrupt. I try to keep it going. I try to keep the enthusiasm, but there comes a point where you need to move on. So how do you keep enthusiasm as an entrepreneur? What steps do you take personally? And I'm not talking about generally because everybody's what gets them going is different. But you go to these high energy events, but is it something like an adrenaline rush, or is it, I don't know, like what keeps your needle moving?
Prior to me starting this leadership journey and this work with Tony Robbins, I've always had an insane amount of energy. So that wasn't something that was new for me. It's just now how to harness this and be able to create it on an instant in a more strategic or more, planned out, methodical way, because I've always been able to go to sleep late, wake up early. If I was excited about something, I could sleep very little and still get up and produce at a high level, because one of the things I learned, if you spell out enthusiasm,
right,
the last four letters of enthusiasm are IASM, which stands for I am sold myself.
Okay.
So if you're sold on a product, right, like think about this. Close your eyes for a second, everybody, and picture yourself going to the most beautiful place that you can imagine in the world. And you get to go to a resort that's all-inclusive, or a hotel or an Airbnb, whatever you want, a house, whatever you want. It's all-inclusive. And you get to have a view of whatever you think is the most beautiful view of the ocean, the beach, the white sand, or the mountains, the snow. Think about this gorgeous view. But they tell you the night before, you got to stay up for 36 hours straight, and you got to go to your job, and you got to be excited for 36 hours straight. But then afterwards, you can enjoy, you can party, you can spend time with your loved ones, your friends, your family for 2 weeks in this all-inclusive place. But before you go, you got to work your tailbone off to get everything that you have to do for your job done. How many people can do that?
I don't know. How many?
I don't know. But if you think about when you have a vacation coming up, how much more productive are you the 2 or 3 days before your vacation comes up? If you're leaving on Thursday, you do more from Monday through Wednesday than you did for the whole month.
Unless you're a mom like me, because I have to prepare everybody, so I do more work towards the
end. Household and work are two different things.
That's true.
When it comes to the house, people are very different because they're sold on their families. See, if you're talking about something that you're sold on, what person doesn't love their family, right? I mean, who doesn't care for their kids? Who doesn't care for their parents? Like, that's a different level of enthusiasm. And some people don't necessarily love their family, but they still take care of them because it's a responsibility that they have.
Out of obligation.
They might not love their spouse, but they're obligated to do it. That's a whole nother level. But if you think about from a work standpoint, I know that when I have to come to a 4, 5, 7, 8, 10-day event, I go off the grid, which is why my phone doesn't get responded to, emails don't. So I have to take care of as much as I can prior, and I work as much as I can, and sometimes you just can't get everything done. But if you look at how much more productive you are right before you go on a big vacation, you will see a huge difference in people's work ethic 2-3 days before they leave, because they now have something to look forward to. That's why one of the things people say is schedule a vacation. It doesn't have to be a big, 2-week vacation, but schedule something in your calendar that you always look forward to every 2 to 3 months. So always have something in there. It could be a 3-day trip where you're like, we're taking Friday off. I'm going to leave work early. We're going to go to the beach. We're going to go snow skiing. We're going to go here. We're going to go there. But you put it in the calendar, so whenever you open the calendar and you look a couple months out, you have that excitement to have, because you're like, oh, we got to go somewhere cool. So I'm working really, 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 really hard. I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to change people's lives. I'm going to do this. Whatever your job is, or your career, your fulfillment work is that you're doing, you do it to the best of your ability, because you know that in a couple of weeks you have a really cool trip that you're going to go to, and you got to go completely off the grid.
And you're talking about kind of having little bits of joy here and there to balance out the workload, so you're not going out of balance and just becoming miserable and depressed and
Right. But going back to I am sold myself, if you're not sold on your work, you're not going to do it. And so if you're sold on like, hey, I hate my job, but my boss is going to pay for me to go somewhere for 2 weeks, all inclusive, you're going to work really hard for those couple of days prior to your trip.
Well, let's talk about that incentive, because I mean, some people have intrinsic incentives and some people have extrinsic incentives. And so what would be some incentives besides going on vacation? Like when you're working as an entrepreneur and maybe you have a team, because you've had a team. I'm still waiting to build my team. What is some value or some incentives that you can offer to get your team pumped and enthused for what you're doing?
Well, you have to have A players. I mean, that it simply comes down to as a leader, your job is to inspire, not motivate. People are like, so Vic, you do all this motivational stuff. I'm like, if I'm motivating you, get the fuck off my page. Like, I want to inspire you, but I don't want to motivate you. Motivation is for people that are C, D, and E, F, G players. Like, they're not people that I want to surround myself. I want to inspire and lead people to see my vision and to buy into my vision that we're going to change the world and make it a better place. I don't want people to come to me and be like, hey, Vic, I need you to motivate me to get my ass out of bed. Like, if I got to motivate you to go to the gym, I don't want to work out with you. Now, there are moments in time where we all need a little bit of motivation. That's not what I'm talking about. But I don't want to have to be motivating you and carrying you every day to do the job that you need to do, because then you're not a team player. You're not somebody that I want to be associated with. You can work at McDonald's. Those people need motivation. But inspiration is very different. So when you're looking at team members, if you can't have the conversations with your team member, like, hey, you're not doing what you need to do, and you can't hold them accountable, they're probably not A players. If they don't like to be measured, if they don't like to see their accountability partner, if they don't show up to their accountability meetings, those are not A players.
Well, let's talk about what an accountability meeting looks like and how do you inspire? Because I'm actually fascinated by this, what your technique was, because I know when I first met you, I used to you used to post videos of some of your stuff, your stuff that you did with your employees. So, what would an accountability meeting look like? Is it a check-in? Is it, hey, what's going on? Can you explain that for me?
Well, it's an accountability meeting. It simply could be the phone call that you have with your accountability partner at 4:00 in the morning, 5:00 in the morning. Hey, here's a picture of me at the gym. They don't have to be these elaborate meetings that are planned out. I mean, half the time we do are these amazing, beautiful podcasts, and we have a skeleton structure that we want to fall into. But as we start talking, the structure goes all over the map, like it typically does in a real life conversation. And so an accountability meeting simply could be, I said that I was going to check in at the end of the day. Here's what I did. I made 100 phone calls. I talked to 27 people. I set up 3 appointments, and I closed 1 sale today. I got 1 new account. Boom, that's your accountability. And then your accountability partner checks in saying, dude, I had a totally shitty day. I should have called you earlier. I was completely out of state. I was focused on the wrong thing. I kept telling myself a bunch of crap because this happened. And, you know, and your accountability partner is like, dude, get out of your head and get your shit done. And then when you go home at 5:00 or 6:00 or 10:00 tonight, then you can focus on what you can't change. But that could be an accountability meeting. Like that 4 or 5 text messages right there between 2 people could be an accountability meeting. And when you have somebody that you're holding accountable to, you don't take the fluff. Like, oh, I'm not feeling good today, or my stomach hurts, or my back hurts. Like, so what? You still got responsibilities to people or to yourself that you need to maintain.
So how can I go a little bit in a different direction? Well, not different, kind of in alignment. But how important with your team, and how often do you praise? Is it something you do every day? Is it and also praise how good of a job that they're doing or not doing, or calling them out? Is it something that you are constantly? I don't want to micromanage, is what I'm trying to say.
Men and women both love their significant other to tell them that they're looking good or looking sexy, and employees are the same way, and so are people. At the end of the day, we all need praise all the time. And so letting somebody know how they're doing, good and or bad, is important. It's something that I've struggled with because I'm really good at telling people what they do shitty. It's not as easy for me to tell somebody, like even my mom, I was at my parents' house, and when I left, my mom's like, the night before, she's like, oh, do you want me to make you're leaving at like 5 o'clock in the morning to go catch a flight. That's a couple hours away and you're taking a car service. Do you want me to make you some food? I was like, oh, I don't want to. She's like, you've been inconsiderate your whole life, and all of a sudden you're going to be considerate. I'll make you some sandwiches in the morning. So she made me some sandwiches, and they were really good. And I was like, oh, I should text my mom and be like, thank you so much. Like, I really appreciated that. And it was hard for me to do that because, like, I've been programmed in this way. So I, like to tell my dad, like, hey, Pops, I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you. You're doing really great at your job, or you're doing really great work over here. It's sometimes really hard to do. And so it's really easy for me to call people out and tell them, like, hey, this should have been done better. And so one of the focuses that I move forward is to tell people, like, thank you, I appreciate you, because I know when somebody praises me, it makes me work harder. It pushes me in a good way because I know that I'm doing the good work. And so as an entrepreneur, if you don't have a clearly defined, one of the struggles I had with my employees was that they said, Vikram, we don't know what we're supposed to do to make you happy.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't.
That's good feedback.
It didn't dawn on me for a few years until after I shut down. But it was like most A and B players, all A players want to make coach happy, but B players as well, and even some C players. But they're like, we don't know what's going to make us an A. Culture, right? That comes from the leader. That's culture. We don't know what's going to make us an A. So then we're just going to perform any which way we want. So they look like a C player, but if you were to take that person and put them in the right structural organization, all of a sudden they go from being a C or a D to an A overnight, and everybody's like, well, they were just a shitty employee with me. It's like, no, you're just a shitty leader that didn't give them enough guidance. And so when my employees or my team members used to tell me, we don't know what we need to do to make you happy, it was because I didn't give them the right structure. For a lot of entrepreneurs, they're really not. They're not really entrepreneurs in the sense that they're artists. They're really good at what they do, and they're really passionate about what they do, but they lack the structure of a real business person. And so the people.
Are you talking about me right now?
I'm talking to myself and probably 90% of people who own businesses. The people who own businesses are the ones who are willing to go out there on a limb and speak their voice and take a risk. But they need to let go and relinquish control and hire somebody who doesn't want to be in front of the crowd, that doesn't want to take the risk, that can structure their business and keep their ass in check. And they need to let go of the control so that they can have other people do what they do best, so that they can do what they do best. And the people that work in that organization can do what they do best. And they know when they're doing good. Because if you don't have a report card, if you don't know the right answer to the test, how do you pass the test?
You have to fail and find out.
If you don't have the answers to the test, how do you grade the test? And that's what we need to do in business. We need to figure out, how do we give people an A grade at the end of the quarter? So when we sit down with them and say, hey, let's have a performance review, did you do A? No. Did you do B? No. Did you do C? No. Okay, well, that means you failed the test. Why? Was it something that I could have helped you on, or is it just because you're a C player?
But I like what you say there. Like, instead of saying, like, here's the bar, I mean, here is the bar. But what you're saying is, I want to give you an A grade, and here's what you need to do to get that A grade, as opposed to, I kind of looking at the positive is, instead of, oh, you failed, I want to give you this A. I want to give you this A. So here's what I need you to do. Check, check, check to get there.
And when people know what they need to do, then you don't have to create this energy for them. So how does this all tie into energy is that now they know what they need to do. Now they know what they need to do to make coach happy. Like, when you know what to do to make coach happy, show up on time, on time, 10 minutes early. Coach doesn't want to start at 5 o'clock. Coaches want you there at 4:59, lined up, 4:58, lined up, ready to go, which means I got to get there at 4:30 to get my gear on. Not the day starts at 9, so I'm going to show up at 9, grab my coffee, 9:05. I mean, sure, in reality, that's fine, but that's a mediocre player. Kobe Bryant is the way he is because he would outshoot you all day long, and he'll out-practice you, and he'll out-strategize you, he'll out-think you, he'll outsmart you because he puts the work in. He's an energized human being because he loved what he did, and that's how he got to being the best of the best in the world. And if you don't really love, people say, love what you do, and then you'll da-da-da. Yeah, I do believe in that to an extent. But you also got to make sure that what you're doing can make you money. And if you don't have a marketplace for what you're doing, then you need to find something else that you can pretend like you love doing to do. And then you go do fulfillment work after hours so that you still feel good. You do the charity work on the weekend. You go feed the homeless. You go to a shelter. You go do something else that gives you the fulfillment so that you know that what you do from Monday through Friday gives you the opportunity to do Saturday and Sunday.
So for me, I'm in this stage in my life where I'm very motivated and jazzed for what I'm going to be doing because I can see the big picture. And so what I do to keep motivated is when we talked about on the last show, time blocking, every time I accomplish something on my time blocking or my action plan, I get really excited. And I don't know if anybody else feels that when they have that huge sense of accomplishment, like things are moving, because I'm not really making a ton of money yet, but I've already created this plan of how to make money and I know it's going to happen. And so each little puzzle piece is falling into place. And so if you can kind of invest up front, because I think a lot of businesses, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, don't a lot of businesses kind of lose money in the first couple of years because all the money's going in and kind of building?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be able to support yourself for a few years. I mean, if you're going to look at businesses, it might be better to go and try to buy a business that's established that already has some clientele versus building a brand new business. I mean, it takes 5 to 7 on average years to get some solid footholdings, build a clientele and build a brand. And that takes capital and it takes time and it takes resources and it takes a tremendous amount of energy. Most people, about 5 years, they either aren't around. I mean, it's a statistic that after a decade, 96% of businesses that start fail. And so, I mean, and I can attest to that because I've seen it. You sometimes get burned out by the 7th year because you've gone through all the headaches of trying to build it and the brand and do everything that you're too busy working on all that you can't really create the systems and the structure and the culture and, what's going to make people happy. But if you can take over a business that's already established, that has people, it's not easy when you first start out. And that's where people fail, is that they overestimate what they can do in a year and they underestimate what they can do in 5 or 7. Everybody says, I'm going to open this business and I'm going to have all this free time and I'm going to go buy a boat. I'm going to go ski and I'm going to have people work for me and it's going to be so great. And that's just not reality.
Well, if you don't sleep, you could do that. I feel like
even if you don't sleep, even if you don't sleep, I mean, there's plenty of people I know that sleep 4 or 5 hours a night. They might not work in their business, but they definitely manage their business. I mean, they're definitely looking at the numbers. They're definitely very involved in the actions of the business. They might not do the day-to-day, but they know what's going on. They control their business from afar. Sometimes they're very close, sometimes they're far, but you can't just put a business on autopilot and think you're going to have the same results.
No, I'm learning that. So like I said, I know we've talked about it. I have kids. And so I waited till they went to bed last night and I was up and you and I were texting and you were up really late last night because you're 3 hours ahead. Yeah, but I was up all night doing a bunch of groundwork for our new YouTube channel, which we should talk about. But yeah, so uploading and transferring files, I mean, it took us 5 hours because we had to backload everything that you and I have done and then my other channel that I have. But I felt I was tired and I was exhausted, but I tell you what, I still woke up at 6 a.m. the next morning and I started uploading one more episode because I was so jazzed by this sense of accomplishment and knowing that it's becoming a reality. Like these thoughts that you and I talked about last year that we knew we were going to work together, it's now concrete. It's now starting to move and the wheels are being greased. And so you can check us out on our YouTube channel. It's called The Odd Couple. And I hope people listen. And well, we're also on Audio Boom, by the way. Sorry, that was a shameless plug.
Well, and let me ask you a question. Were you sold on the fact that you were going to, on the work you're doing? Are you sold on what you're doing right now?
Well, yeah. Well, one, because I'm fulfilled that I'm learning new things, and that really gets me enthused. I love learning new. My 12-year-old son had to teach me a lot of this stuff. I'm not gonna lie, they know way more about technology. He knows about YouTube advertising. He's like, you need this many subscribers to get paid, and da 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 da. And he's like, okay, that's our goal. That's our new goal. So we're looking for subscribers. But I was sold on it because I know that this is not a wasted investment, if that makes sense.
Well, and that's the other thing why you're sold, is because you're learning. So a lot of business owners, unfortunately, want to be the smartest person in the room, and that's great. But if I'm the smartest guy in the room, that means, one, I'm surrounded by people that are inferior to me, and two, that means I don't get to learn. And if you don't learn, without growth, you're actually dying. You're going backwards. So people that aren't learning things are actually going backwards. And I know people that are uberly successful. I mean, I thought I read a decent amount. I try to read for about an hour a day now. And I know people that, this one man that we heard speak, he said he reads 2 to 3 books a week. And people say, well, I don't have the time for that. I said, well, how much TV do you watch? Well, I'm tired at the end of the day. Well, don't tell me you don't have time. Just tell me where your priorities are at. I mean, if you really want to learn, but when you grow, you get excitement, because that's one of the things that's juicing you right now, but you're excited about it. Like, I can feel the energy in the text messages, because you sent me a screenshot last night. Like, hey, here's our new thumbnail for YouTube right now. What do you think? And I'm like so asleep right now.
Sorry.
Well,
no, if you didn't travel so much.
I know. If I wasn't in all these, I'm the Indian Waldo. That's what you guys can call me, the Indian Waldo. But I could feel your excitement on it, and I knew you were jazzed about it when you sent me the text, because it was only like 9 or 10 for you, but it was like 12 or 1 for me. And so I thought this morning, I'm like, oh, she's pumped right now. Like, she's excited. And when you're excited, you can put a lot of energy into something, and it doesn't feel like work. And that's the thing, is that if you're doing work you love, and I'm pretty sure this podcast is only going to reach people that are actually trying to grow, or on a space to grow. I mean, a lot of the podcasts I listen to, it doesn't affect 90% of the population, unfortunately, because those people are just kind of stagnant in their world, and they're just kind of, this is the way life is, unfortunately. So people don't hear about a lot of the speakers. But when you're growing, you're excited. When you're learning, you're excited. When you're doing something you love and enjoy, you're excited. That's why you can see kids go outside and play for 12 hours, and you're like,
I know the time doesn't exist. It doesn't. It just moves so quickly. It flies.
Yeah, they're like, Mom, I want to play more and more. And you're like, aren't you? I'm tired from watching you and listening to you scream all day. Like, I'm tired of watching you. How are you not tired? And like, I'm looking right now at the beach, and there's these kids just running around all day, and they come home, and then right when they hit the bed, they pass out. The next morning, they're right back out doing it again, because they love what they're doing. And they're sold on playing. So you have to figure out how to make your work, even if it's something you don't love. You have to figure out a way to get excited to do it, and that's how you can keep your energy up.
Well, and we're running out of time today. Well, not out of time. Time's infinite, right? But I know you're off.
I have a lot of energy when we talk about energy.
But I wanted to say, I like what you said about not being the smartest person in the room, because clearly my 12-year-old son was smarter than me last night. No shame in admitting that. But if you can find something to keep you enthused, whether you have a team, whether you're doing it on your own like I am, or I'm building my team, I'm starting to pull people in that see my vision, and they have enthusiasm for what I'm doing, and we're going to help each other. But I also want them to grow. And so if you can help yourself grow and others grow, I feel like it's just always a win-win. But would you like to close on anything real quick, Vikram?
Well, I really love what you said about my 12-year-old. And, there's this hierarchical world that we live in that's changing. But the world that we live in is that I'm the boss, I'm the eldest, I'm the entrepreneur, you work for me, so therefore I'm the smartest person, so therefore you need to listen to me. And so people that have really brilliant ideas don't speak up, because we shut them down. We shut them down, and every time they come to us, we shut them down and say, no, this has to be this way. Or, well, what do you know? You just work for me. Like, maybe not in those words, but that's the message that's taken home. learning to listen to people and validating their ideas will have them speak up more, and that'll help your business grow. And you can learn something from everybody every day. I mean, people say, well, I can't learn anything from a bum. I said, well, I don't know. You can ask a bum what they did to get into that position and not do that, and that's a pretty good learning lesson. So you can learn something from everybody, everywhere, every day. And it doesn't matter the age. And you can learn things from like a little kid. You can learn how to have joy in life and appreciate the moment. You can have things from older people, which they'll tell you, a lot of them, don't waste time today, because when you get to my age, you're gonna wish you did what you wanted to. So there's a lot of things you can learn from people. And I really wanted to honor what you said, is that I wasn't the smartest person in the room, because my son knew more about YouTube than I did.
Yes, he's and he's going to be editing this, so he's going to be very enthused that we talked about him.
You should give him a shout out. What's his Instagram?
Oh, he doesn't know. He's not allowed to have Instagram. He does have his, but I do want to say, my son said the other day, I want to be a billionaire, Mom. And I go, okay, we'll do it together. But he already has a stream on Twitch, and he had this business plan for me, because I am very limited on how much I let my kids play video games during the week because of school. And so they can play Friday and then Saturday, and that's it for the week. But he gave me this business plan where if he streamed 1 hour a day and he can get followers, he can actually set up a PayPal account and get people to donate or whatever, right, for his content. I'm not even joking. and I loved his business plan. And so I talked to my husband. I was like, should we give it a go? And his grades were really good. So that was also a factor in deciding whether or not we said yes. And he's got almost straight A's. So we said, we'll give it a go. So far, so good. He's gotten from 0 followers to now he's got 16. I'm so excited for him. And he's going to keep going, and he keeps being motivated too. So we have these young entrepreneurs out there. But shout out to Brody. He's my son. He's my middle son. I have 3 children. But
and I bet you his grades will improve.
Right.
Or they'll stay at that high level, because now it's like going to work.
Right.
It's like, okay, I got to go to work so I can play on the weekend. I got to go to work so I can play on the weekend. So I bet you his grades will stay at the level that they're at, or they might even get better, because now he's like, okay, my grades slipped and I'm off the YouTube or whatever, the Twitter.
It's Twitch. It's a streaming website.
But I put money that he will stay more engaged, because he doesn't want to lose what he loves doing. So he'll keep his 9 to 5 really active, so that he can do his side hustle and, not lose
side
that
hustle,
opportunity, that freedom.
It's totally a side hustle. He hustled me, huh?
No, he told you. He created a plan. He had a strategy. He knew what his outcome was. I mean, it's the basic idea of what he needed to do. He knew what his outcome was, and then he put a plan together, and he said, this is what I need to do, and he accomplished it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So good for him.
So I hope we've inspired you to be enthused about what you're doing. And if you're not enthused about what you're doing, really take inventory of that and do a pattern disrupt and see what you need to infuse in your life to keep that enthusiasm, or maybe change what you're doing, completely change what you're doing. I'd like to say farewell to everyone this week. And Vikram, do you want to say where you're going next? Is it a secret?
I'm in Florida. So today we travel to Miami. Tomorrow from Miami I go to Portugal to Amsterdam for a week to do a very small business building event. And then from Amsterdam to London to watch Taylor Swift. Don't ask me how that happened.
I think I know. I won't say.
And then back to America for a couple of weeks, and then to the south of France for one of my last trips with my platinum partner family in the Tony Robbins organization for the year.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, we'll have another show up hopefully next week. So I don't know where in the world Vikram will be, but I have to get like a fun we'll have to do a fun little picture of you in a Where's Waldo shirt.
Well, I think I might have to record this next one in the red light district of Amsterdam.
Oh, wow. Okay. we'll see where the mind goes with that one.
I'll talk to you later. Thank you guys, and have a very energetic week, everybody.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.